thank you.
"67-year-old Marion Terpstra is not your traditional corn and soybean farmer. His family gave that up 30 years ago.
Conventional farmer in the 80s, going broke like a lot of guys, and knew that if we wanted to stay on the farm, we was going to have to do something that made some money. This was the only other thing I could think of that still stay on the farm.
Marion and his 66-year-old wife Nancy diversified, planting a wide variety of vegetables: beets, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, green beans, onions,
Cucumbers and zucchini, just about anything you can grow around here.
anything to save the farm. The farm crisis of the 1980s cut deep through the heartland, and the Terpstra's 320-acre farm outside of New Sharon, Iowa was no exception.
Oh, for 2 or 3 years there, it was just touch and go. You know, the bank, I didn't see how we could ever get out of debt. You know, basically, my net worth was about what I owed at the bank. I was just basically broke.
The Terpstras moved onto their farm in 1971. As conventional farmers, they raised corn and soybeans, stock cattle, feeder cattle, and hogs.
Then we went and built a big confinement farrowing and nursery, which cost a lot of money, and the interest went from 7-8% to 20% on that. And my contract run out on the farm that I bought. I'd been paying 6%, it went to 14. And we just losing money hand over fist. And we had to either, you know, get out of farming or find a way to make some money.
It was hard times on the farm. An Embargo Act in 1980 stopped grain from being exported to the Soviet Union. Supply went up, prices went down, and higher interest rates caused debt to pile up on farmers. The time brought about broken families, suicides, and a few farmers even attacked and murdered bankers. In 1985, Farm Aid raised about $7 million, but that wasn't enough. The Agricultural Credit Act of 1987 authorized up to $4 billion in federal assistance to save farmers facing foreclosure. It really was hard times on the farm.
But we come out of it, so with a lot of hard work and sweat.
They took about 80 acres, or about a quarter of their land, and used it for growing market produce.
So we started raising some vegetables, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger, and finally it just kind of consumed us.
The remaining 200+ acres went to cash rent land to farmers that could afford it. The two sources of income combined saved the farm and the Terpstras from bankruptcy.
Well, I'm hot, and I think I got enough corn, so I'm gonna call her a day.
During the last 30 years, you could find Terpstra produce at most farmers markets in central Iowa. On June 26, 1994, the press picked up on what the Terpstras were doing.
J.P. Wagner, the Des Moines Register, did a big feature article in the Sunday Register about us on vegetables, and that really helped our business in Des Moines. We always told people that we raised all our own stuff, but nobody really believed us until they saw this article, and he did a good job.
The article says, much of what Terpstra knows about vegetable production he has learned through trial and error. He attends a few conferences on vegetable production and enjoys reading books on the subject. One thing he's learned is animals love the produce, especially raccoons. Marion sets live traps and uses an electric fence as a deterrent. And this guy is going to be released about 5 miles down the road.
The local game warden says you had better take them at least 5 miles away or they'll find their way back again.
You keep learning from your mistakes, he said. The first couple of years aren't easy. If you make minimum wage, you'd be lucky. But stick with it, and it'll make you some money. And they did stick with it, receiving even more press.
Article, I think Kathy Burdan wrote about us again at the downtown farmers market, and just kind of explained what we did.
The Des Moines Register article from September 30th, 1998 reads, "If the Terpster's produce looks better than your garden variety, it's because they only show their best. We raise plenty of junk," Terpster says. "We just leave it at home."
Like you pick an ear like that, and the top feels funny. You just drop the ear because it isn't filled out good to the tip.
The Terpsters again made the Des Moines Register a few years ago when they scaled down the number of markets they set up at. That included the largest market in Des Moines.
Mark Hansen wrote a real nice article about us when we quit going to the downtown market, and explained really, why we quit, which was good for all of our customers to read, because we didn't have a chance to tell them because it kind of come up kind of sudden.
They quit the Des Moines Downtown Farmers Market because loud music made it difficult to hear their customers. New rules wouldn't allow them to leave early if they sold out, and a change in fees meant paying more to set up shop.
We rented about 6 stalls, and we paid $1,750 a year for it, which I thought was a pretty good price, but it was really a good market and it was worth it. And just right off the bat, overnight they raised the rate to $4,000. And when I told the lady that was in charge then, and she didn't last very long, she was gone by the middle of that summer. She was new there, but I said, "Ma'am," with the economy the way it is, it's been, I think, 3 years ago, I said, "We just can't hardly afford a raise like that." And she just said, "Well, we got 100 people that love to have your spot." I said, "Well, maybe they better just have her then." So that was it. My wife's had a bad back, and I've had a bad hip, and it was a blessing in disguise because it was getting too much for us.
Yeah, I think it was God's way of saying we needed to slow down a little.
Yeah. And with the rates that high, you couldn't afford to go there and just not raise a lot of stuff. You had to really sell a lot of stuff to make that feasible. And we'd have to hire 8 or 10 people to help us sell, because we'd set up close to 100 foot of table space, and we needed a lot of help to cover it. But boy, you could sell stuff there. It just continuous all morning long.
They now set up at 3 markets a week, 2 in Oskaloosa and 1 in Pella. And even though they aren't setting up in Des Moines anymore, they're still drawing customers from the area.
Oh, these folks are old customers from Des Moines. They got to come.
30 years
they got to come to Oskaloosa to buy good vegetables.
We went to the Des Moines Farmers Market for many years, and Terpsters were probably the main attraction there. So then it kind of got too competitive and too commercial. And they left there and went to Johnston, which was close to where we lived. And we followed them there, and then after that, when they came back here, we followed them down here.
The farmers market allows customers to connect with the producer, build up a relationship, socialize, and even ask questions about the produce.
They want to know what you use, if you use chemicals and what kind, and things like that. In the past, 10 years ago, nobody had ever asked, but they're more conscious of the quality and of their food. So.
Across the country, farmers markets tend to be a social outlet for people, I think, and I tend to use it that way.
You don't come to the farmers market, you miss something, really. That's my opinion.
People by nature are social, and I think they like to get to know the person that is raising these products and find out a little bit about them. How did this turnip grow, or how come these kohlrabi are that big, or did you have hail last night, or how come this or that?
They like the fresh vegetables. They know it's fresh, they know where it comes from, comes locally.
A little bit of variety of a little bit of everything. There's sweets, there's vegetables, there's all kinds of stuff.
There's so much variety of stuff that they can buy here, and it's real reasonable, and you know it's fresh. That's what I like about it.
First time when I sold $50 at the farmer's market, I thought, wow, at that time, 30 years ago, that was quite a little money.
With 30 years experience, the Terpsters has seen the ups and downs, and this year's crop has not been the best.
Well, their big problem with their sweet corn, it all got ready at once. Everybody's did, and here like the last 2 weeks it was, and actually we sold it cheaper than we'd like to, but we got rid of most of it. But the tomatoes are probably the biggest disappointment. I don't think they're ever going to amount to much. Just had some blight in them, and they're small, but everybody you talk to says about the same thing. They're just not going to be a good tomato year. Too cold and wet to start with, and then that intense heat. Heat's good for tomatoes, but it's just too much of a good thing.
But they aren't too worried about a tough year for both the sweet corn and tomatoes.
You know, we're at the age now where, you know, 20 years ago it had been a big concern, but it's not as big a concern now as when I was going broke.
Looking back, the Terpses tried to remember what their conversation was like when they first started growing produce for the farmers market, and how their business has come to be what it is today.
Yeah, what did I tell you?
I don't remember. Either this or go broke, I guess, you know. And
That's
yeah,
just up to you.
didn't-
I'd guess you'd probably wish, you know, just as soon I'd have went and got a job in the factory.
at the time, probably.
Yeah,
But I grew to really like working in the soil, and I'm not real good at markets. He's more of a people person than I am. So I'd rather be out, you know, with my fingers in the dirt, getting my fingernails dirty. We had a market Saturday, and he wasn't there, and believe me, I could tell it. He thinks of things that I don't, to pique the interest of the customers. And
You're a good team.
Marion and Nancy Terpstra have employed dozens of seasonal workers over the years. They have pulled themselves out of debt and supported a family, raising 2 children along the way, and now have 4 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. When asked what their 5-year plan was,
if we aren't dead, you know. As long as our health holds out, I'd say we'll probably keep dabbling in it. But I think we're gonna have to just keep cutting back, you know, as our health, you know, peters out.
That's all for this edition of Oskaloosa Today. I'm John Hoffman, and thank you for watching.
so that's a wrap.
You're done with the cucumbers.
Yeah,
huh?
and we did the zucchini earlier, so.